Good morning, everybody. Interesting this last week, some of the coincidences, well, not really coincidence. I think just the universe and myself are in alignment. And today is December 7th. It is the anniversary of Pearl Harbor, the day that lives in infamy when Pearl Harbor was attacked by the Japanese, and it was the first attack on American soil. And then this morning, like really early, because I was up like around 4 o'clock this morning, just taking care of business, doing things, making sure my website's up to date and all of that. I mean, as far as the different versions of WordPress. And so I was taking care of stuff early this morning, and then I went on to YouTube. That's when I posted how many hours of YouTube I listened to. And then I somehow, I've been listening to the history of English kings and English queens and just all of the royalty in England and British and Scotland. And it's really interesting because I love learning all the different history just to understand what the human condition was way back when. What were they what was the different personalities of each of these rulers? What do they have to deal with from the perspective of the historian, of course, but what do they have to deal with, ruling a large amount of people? And what kind of politics did they play? And, and there was just so many different personalities. And of course, they all were dying, like early because their body was given out. They weren't doing nutrition. So they were only, obviously ruling long enough that, before they passed away. And so no one's really, even back then, back in the 16, 14, 15, 1600s, no one was really looking at health as anything. They were just flying by the seat of their pants, probably trying the different experiments of the herbs and all the different stuff that their alchemists were doing to maybe help with some of their issues, like using leeches, bleeding them, doing all this crazy stuff. I'm sure you heard about Henry VIII. So I was listening to some of those videos, and then even with, like, was it, I think, is it Mary? One of the queens of England, she decided not to marry because she saw the husband killed the wife. I mean, alcohol and other types of psychotic episodes happen in marriages, and so she decided that she was not going to get married, and because her mother was killed by the father, and was very careful in how, that she didn't proclaim any Protestant or Catholic leaning so she wouldn't piss off the population. So I'm listening to just these long YouTube videos, right? And sometimes I fall asleep to them, so I'm here. So my subconscious then also listens to them, though I don't remember everything. But maybe, who knows, that info might come up someday when I need it. Makes you wonder what the subconscious does. And then somehow, for some reason, the video went to then the making of a super soldier, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And it talked about drugs. And lately, I've been really on the whole just say no. I mean, I'm taking myself back to the 1980s when Nancy Reagan really had very good intentions, no different than prohibition back in the 1900s, when they had very good intentions of trying to help the population that was so dead set on destroying themselves, and to no avail, of course, right? And then I guess now we have George Bush, dead, George Bush Sr., the alleged, supposed, biggest drug cartel, but regardless of whether it was George Bush or anyone else in the government, somebody would have taken on that role. Okay, hey, Joaquin. So it's like, these people are like, oh my God, the biggest drug cartel. Well, hello, we are asking for drugs right now in our society. There is such a clamoring for holistic supplements that are basically elements that are manipulating the human body. So I don't understand this indignation around George Bush Sr., who basically gave people what they wanted. Yeah, they made it easier and flooded the street, but hey, it would have caught on the street anyways because of all the different Colombian cartels coming through back in the 80s, through Florida, probably through Canada, any way possible. When they know there's a market and they're trying to stop the drug trade, it's going to get in. So, hey, might as well at least regulate it. So I don't really see George Bush as a demon in that way. Because then I'm listening to this video of the extreme end of how these drugs were being used in experiments during the different world wars. So back in Stalin, when they were, when Stalin was in office or whatever, and then when Adolf Hitler back in World War II, and then all of the experiments they've been doing ever since then, making the super soldier, whether it's methamphetamines, using cocaine, using, all these different, and I'm sure even cannabis too, but they're taking these types of drugs and probably hormones too, and they're making them like these super soldiers that they're fearless, that feel no pain, that are fearless, that have major endurance, that can march. I mean, there's one experiment that's in this video they're talking about where they had somebody marching for 24 hours and they felt no pain, they felt no fear, they had major endurance, and then they died. Like after the 24 hours, but they died with a smile on their face. And that was because like Pervitin or some other type of, it was a mixture, it was a cocktail of drugs that they were doing. And of course, they don't want to have that right in the population because people would be just completely, hey, Massimo, abusing it, because when you're in that major euphoria, because that's what they also were talking about, like euphoria, when you are totally reaching the point of euphoria, totally pain-free euphoria, like when you're an adrenaline junkie or when you're a pleasure seeker, regardless, okay, you reach that pinnacle, that major, and you reach it, and then that drug doesn't work anymore, and then all of a sudden you have this panic and you have the depression and then suicide because you totally like just depleted all of your serotonin, you depleted all of those pleasure hormones, and now you're left with this fear and anxiety and panic. And that's what we're seeing right now in the population with the cannabis, for one, with all the different holistic supplements. So yeah, turmeric may not be as strong as methamphetamine, but it still works in the same way. It anesthetizes your immune system so you don't feel pain, so you don't know where you are, and so then one day you're dead. And you won't know even why, because guess what? You've killed off all the idiot lights on your dashboard. And then people all wonder, oh, the chemtrails, oh, the 5G, oh, this, oh, that, when they're taking in these negative elements in their home, compounding the issue. So yeah, if 5G has some negative elements, yeah, so if the chemtrails have some negative elements, guess what you're doing in your own home with these supplements, with these cannabis, with all of this stuff. And so I'm just like, so when you look at the extreme of how these drugs are being experimented, and you see the extreme side, then you look at the population, you look at these soldiers that are coming home, like the one that killed his family. You hear about these soldiers that are committing suicide, they're committing violence and domestic violence and all this stuff. They make very bad choices out there, whether it's alcohol, drugs, or something else, and then their life is shit. And then the parents and the families are trying their best because they know that they were in the military. They know that they were going through something through our government, because that's what the government does, is that they, you give your body to the government when you're a soldier or in the military. I went through it. I went through 2 rounds of major vaccines. It's no surprise. I mean, I'm surprised that I didn't have more than what I had as far as PMDD, but I got out in 2000. And I was over there in Mississippi, so I transferred from California Air National Guard to the Mississippi Air National Guard. It was a mobile unit, more mobile than the California Guard was, and so they were trying to give everybody anthrax shots. I said, I'm done. I'm not, and this is before I even knew about how bad the vaccines, and before I was like an activist, but I knew that the anthrax shot was experimental. I knew it was not a good thing. So I did a whole voluntarily, I'm out. I'm done. And it was, I was discharged. It was probably other than honorable, or I forget. It was one of those, it wasn't like honorable because I, you know, I mean, I didn't want to do the anthrax shot. So, and that my military days are behind me. I'm done with the military. So yeah, so we have these people out there that have been through the military, are now back at home after 4 years, 8 years, however many years, and they're now trying to deal with everyday life, and they've been, you know, ruined by the practices, because in the military, you know, that's what they do, is that, you know, they want you they want to brainwash you, they want to experiment on you, they see what these experiments are doing, and then they take the notes, and then they throw you back into the civilian population, say, hey, now sink or swim. And then, you know, loved ones don't know what to do. So they either anesthetize their loved ones by giving them what they want or enabling them, or they completely reject them because they don't know how to deal with that. Or these loved ones are hurting their families. Violent episodes, domestic violence, bar fights, whatever else. And so now it's even, I mean, but it's like our population isn't looking to better their health. They're looking for another escape hatch. And so it's so interesting to see the extreme end of it, because what that video was showing was when you give somebody so many, you know, euphoric stimulants to where they completely just, like, you know, when you're just like taking in as much as you can of something that just creates that euphoric, you know, like these drugs or sex or anything that creates that euphoria, and then they see what happened to the person afterwards, they become psychotic. And it happens very quickly. But no, in our population, they're doing it a little bit. The little drugs that you're getting a little bit of a benefit, euphoria, then you're getting like the downer, so you get the upper, then you get the downer, and then they give you something else for that. And I know that, I mean, this is probably like, you already know this for those of you who are against biotech, but it's not just the prescription drugs. It's the cannabis, okay? When they're now doing what they're doing, the pharmaceutical grade cannabis, but forget about that for a minute, because I know some of you are like, oh, well, I just grow my own. It doesn't matter. There's still negative elements. So if you grow your own and non-GMO cannabis, it still has negative elements. It still has an anesthetizing effect on your body. It still isn't good for you. Oh, well, I'll take ginger and I'll take turmeric and apple cider vinegar, which is ethanol, which is basically alcohol. That's what apple cider vinegar is. That's what all vinegar is, basically. Okay? So you have these holier than thou holistic people who give two shits about their health. Really, they still want to be anesthetized, but they want to feel better being anesthetized by saying, oh yeah, well, this drug is so much more socially acceptable because they've bought into the marketing that it's plant-based natural. Everything is freaking natural on this earth. It's all part of the periodic tables. Everything is natural. But no, it's when you put specific elements together and then you put different hormones together and tissues is when you get these specific, you know, outcomes. I mean, this guy, remember that guy, Jesse Howe, that was on my Facebook, who is like, oh, I take these cannabis oil and oh, man, it makes me all energized and revved up and makes me want to go work out. And I'm just like, what? You know, even when I don't want to feel like, if I'm feeling down or low energy, which should be a red flag, right? If you're feeling down and low energy, then you have an issue. Oh, but when I take the cannabis, I feel amazing. I feel like I can go run a mile. Hello, drug addict right there. And I'm like, why are you trying to force your body to work out? If you don't want to work out, it's because your body says, no, you're torturing me. Oh, but no, we are still buying into the brainwashing that working out and doing all this muscle sculpting is a healthy thing, when all it's doing is just deceiving the public, because you think that having six-pack and having, you know, sculpted muscles is a sign of good health, when really actually you're decaying inside. Oh, but no, Jesse Howe was like, so, no, you're wrong, you know, because they're bought into their brainwashing. They've bought into that whole argument that there are better drugs. A drug is a drug. There are no better drugs. Just because you've poisoned yourself slowly doesn't mean that that's better than completely poisoning yourself quickly. You just happen to just buy yourself a little bit of time, and you're leaving this earth with a smile on your face. And that's the point of the military right now, creating a super soldier, is they want them to go into battle with no fear, extreme endurance, hardly any sleep, hardly any food, and be this totally cold-hearted killing machine. That's what they're doing. That's what they're going for. And so now you take those down a few notches, and then you put it into the population. No wonder we have some messed up people in our society. No wonder we have so many activists that are not doing anything with their life except complaining and working out and eating their fruit cups. Okay? I mean, it's no wonder. And then what are they doing to help their friends? Oh yeah, do this detox. Ooh, take this, you know, this, hell, I don't know, this cannabis or whatever it is. Or go get this massage. I mean, that's how they help their friends, is basically here, take more negative elements to compound the issue that's already going on. Hey, we can't help the chemtrails. It's whatever, you know, regardless of what you think the intention is, it's not deadly or you'd be dead. Okay? We can't help the 5G because that's the advanced society, advanced technology. If they truly wanted to kill you, you'd be dead. We can't help all of the pollution. I live next to an oil refinery. I live next to a freeway. I have cars going up and down this busy road, big trucks as well. I live behind a truck yard. Now, if I really want to, I could move, but it's not really going to make a difference because industry is everywhere. Okay, it gets into the groundwater, it gets into the air. There's no escape if you truly want to live in a modern society. Even if you don't, you being an off-gridder, you still got to have access because you're not going to want to be totally isolated from everything. I mean, come on, even off-gridders still are tied into society. So that's total, like, you know, fallacy off-gridding. So what are you going to do? What you really should be doing? You need to be looking at strategic nutrition, not just being a vegan vegetarian, because look at the vegan and vegetarians are dying like flies, no different than the carnivores. But then that's where my information comes in that's a little bit different. I don't rely on drugs. I don't say cannabis is the end-all be-all. I'm buying into that marketing propaganda machine. But then, you know, you got to look at the mutations in our society, the drug addicts in our society that are you know, on Capitol Hill. It's no wonder we have a messed up system because we have people who are messed up and they're not correcting their mutations. We have people in government that are messed up. We have people in different agencies that are messed up. But there's good intentions, and then you have people who are really extreme. So, you know, it's not like you're going to really do it's not like your activism is going to change the mutations in those that create legislation. It's not. Voting is another, you know, act of futility. But hey, people want to do it, fine. If you feel like that's going to be your voice because you don't feel like you have a voice, then fine, do what you got to do. But you think that your activism, you think that taking your drugs is going to change society. No, it's actually changing your biochemistry is what's going to change society. But people don't understand that from that level because they're so mutated. And academia is run by the same people who are mutated. That's why they haven't really adopted this too much. That's why you don't hear too much. But we have alcoholics in all levels of government. We have drug addicts in all levels of government. We have alcoholics in academia. Look at your professors. They're aging rapidly. You think they're thinking on all the right cylinders? No. You think your people, your leaders in office are working with all the right cylinders? No, because alcohol is ever pervasive. That's why you're seeing death, dying, and everything else. Drugs are, and there's more socially acceptable drugs in our society, so it's under the radar. Oh, I don't do LSD or methamphetamine, but hey, I'm taking cannabis every day. Or, but hey, I'm doing, you know, I don't know, my pills, my string of pills that have the days of the week on them every single day. I mean, come on. So yeah, you're not going to change society by your activism, because you're all drug addicts that are activists. You change your society by your biochemistry. And then once you get biochemistries changed up, I mean, yeah, you're going to still see people go to war. You're still going to see kids going into the military. You're still going to see academia pushing out the next latest and greatest, whatever, right? But if you do Jilly Juice and you understand Jilly Juice and you understand the strategic nutrition and the pain and the healing and the diet, then you're going to be watching people kill each other. But you're not going to take part in it. Yes, so you're going to see generations of families. You're going to be watching generations of families. And eventually that genetic line will be cut off, because but yeah, there's more people, but we have people all over the world wanting to get into America, and they're procreating like crazy. So yeah, we're going to see people who are expiring very fast in the system, and then the system is up and ramping up the vaccines and the 5G and the chemtrails and everything else that we think is horrible, right? And you're not doing anything at all to reinforce your insides. Yeah, you're going to pass away sooner. And then we have people that are back down, like down in South America, coming through the border, wanting to take your place, because you're replaceable. All of you that are still stuck in your activism and your drugs and your alcohol are all replaceable. And I kind of see why that, you know, I mean, we know that Trump is trying to like stop them from coming through, but you know they can't stop people that want to get through. There's underground tunnels, there's human smuggling, human trafficking, all that stuff happens. But if you truly, truly believe in changing humanity, like truly, and you understand history, and you actually study history, not at the school where you're studying little parts of it, but you study history from the perspective of what humanity has done to itself. And then you actually make the changes in your life where you actually change your biochemistry and you stop inducing fear, then we can see humanity change. But until then, you keep spouting the party line, you're just perpetuating the party line. So yeah, today was, I mean, this morning was so prophetic when I watched that video on those drugs and the super soldiers, because I can only imagine those that are in the military, those that enlisted in the military, and then, you know, their moms are like, you know, anti-vax. We have a lot of disconnects right now in the activist world. A lot of them. And it's unfortunate, because they're going to be looping and staying in that same argument. And then guess what? These activists will be dying sooner, if not later, because all they're worried about is being anti-vax, but not being pro-strategic nutrition. And they still go to Stanford hospitals or the different high-level hospitals. They still have people in their family going into the military. So you know that, you know, their sons or daughters are getting massive amounts of vaccines. You know, they're human guinea pigs. You know it happens. But some people don't have any other, you know, future for themselves except for the military. And this is our world. Doesn't mean you have to take part in that. You can silently observe as you get your life together and make notes of what to do and what not to do, and help spread the word, but not just preaching to the choir. Be brave and start confronting your own, I don't know, confront your own convictions and not be afraid to put it out there. But yeah, I mean, social media is crazy. we figured out who, you know, who killed off my husband on social media. It wasn't my trolls that sent in the death certificate. It was his other trolls in his world. So social media is insane. So you got to know how to protect yourself, okay, on social media, because people will find names of obituaries and send it into Facebook and try to then, you know, memorialize you, to cut your voice off. People will try to, you know, report your profile as fake to make you then prove that you are who you say you are. And if you're so anti-government, you're like, I'm not going to show my ID to Facebook. It's not secure. And then there goes your voice because of your convictions. So you really have to be, you know, armor yourself up if you truly want to help humanity. Know exactly what you're doing, what you're up against. But this whole thing about, oh, the chemtrails, oh, the 5G, oh, this, oh, that. Oh, my God, the problem is right in front of you. It's not out there. It really isn't. And so it was just eye-opening to see, you know, I mean, they even used vodka. That's right, because in the days of Stalin, they were actually giving vodka, little bits of vodka, to their soldiers before they went off to war. I mean, they were giving them Pervitin, amphetamines, methamphetamines, all this stuff. I mean, it happened in the Vietnam War too. People were coming, LSD and everything. The soldiers were coming back total drug addicts. I'm sure you remember hearing stuff about that back in the 1960s, 1970s. Then you had the 1980s where it's like, just say no, because, oh my God, that was crazy. They were seeing people falling out left and right. So there's a reason why they had these trying to, you know, legislate morals, because they saw the fall of society. That was truly the fall of society, was when drugs became just all over the place. But yes, the military, it was very, very, very prevalent in the military, and then they brought it home, and then people want it. Once you get people hooked, then you got to give it to them, or they're going to get it from a place that's not very kosher, and then you see death all over the streets. And there were, I mean, there was like needles everywhere. There's people, bodies. I'm like, okay, so somebody had to go in and regulate. So yes, biotech had to go in and regulate, so we didn't have all of these drug addicts just dead. They say, hey, we can give you your drug, and then you can still maintain going to work and paying your taxes. So in a lot of ways, the government is your friend, because you don't have to see those bodies on the street because of someone used, you know, somebody else's mixture that they were cutting from, you know, all the different chemicals under their sink. I don't love biotech, no, but I understand their place. I don't love the FDA, no, but I understand their place. And now you have to understand your place in this world and what powers you have, and exercise them. Like, seriously, exercise them. But if you don't think you have any power and you think that, you know, you're out of control, then yeah, it's going to be obvious. People are throwing up their out of control lifestyle all over the internet. The death throes are getting louder in the activist community because the activists are really dying. They're circling the same thing. Oh, my vaccine injured child, but I'll do nothing to help this child with strategic nutrition. But oh, woe is me, my vaccine injured child. Oh, but I was warned by everybody, don't take the vaccine, don't do this. But oh, my vaccine injured child. And that is their platform for the rest of their life and their child's rest of their child's life. And no one's fixing those mutations. Oh no, because they're still wanting to milk that, oh, my vaccine injured child for the rest of the eternity. So people are dying in the activist world. That's unfortunate, because I know they have good intentions, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Being an activist in this society does not work. But I guess they'll learn the hard way as they are flailing about. All right, have a good day, guys.